Thank you so much for doing this with us. This is our, so each month we do our featured lunch and learn. We try to find a top Remax agent from around the country who has amazing skill sets and gets to bring some knowledge of their team and their successful business to us. So we are proud to welcome Carlos. And is it Alleyne?
Alleyne,
Alleyne,
Alleyne.
Alleyne. I should know that. I was embarrassed not to know that. I should have asked you that ahead of time, Alleyne. We,
That's all right.
we were fortunate to see each other about a year ago, almost close to this day, down in Florida. Had a nice dinner with Carlos and his wife, and since then I've just been a huge fan on social media, following you and your business and everything that you've been doing. So
Thank you kindly.
yeah, and you're also very active in the Realtor Association, which a lot of us all are here. And so what we do, Carlos, is we invite people to join us today on their lunch, and but we also then record this and we post it in our Facebook groups when we're finished. And so then, if they want to follow up, they kind of watch it as they're at their leisure. And I'm always amazed at how many people kind of go back and see it time and time again. So thanks for sharing. And let's just start with a little bit about you and your business, where you are, kind of how you're structured.
Okay, so I am actually in the Boca Raton area, but I work Boca Raton, Florida, Delray Beach, pretty much from Palm Beach Gardens all the way back to Boca. I work with Remax Advantage, and I just love that I'm able to, work in an environment where I have a great association, great support system. And originally, I'm from Barbados. I'm only about 5 years in real estate. And what else can I tell you about me? I love ballroom dancing. All the things I like to do, we can't do right now, unfortunately, because of lockdown. As you know, I love global, travel a lot. In 2019, we had about 13 countries in 12 months. So I'm really transforming myself this, well, last year and this year because everything had to be kind of reworked. So I mean, that's a little bit about me in a nutshell. I serve locally, nationally, and state. And I think it's important if you're going to be a practitioner in real estate, you have to know your associations. And more importantly, you have to give back because that's really the quintessential way of showing support and growing the organization.
Well, I always love you for saying that. How did you get into real estate?
Well, I always liked real estate. My previous life was finance, investment banking, Wall Street stuff. But once I got out of that, I was working at Citibank. So I always liked real estate. I put deals together. I give people referrals, and I was giving, the attorneys and friends of mine $8, $10 million in referrals a year. And once I left that line of work, they said to me, "Why don't you get your license? Because we could certainly pay you, you give us lots of referrals." So I had a network pretty much built already because all I did was I reached out to my former clients and I didn't ask them for any listings. I just said, look, if you know anyone who you could refer, I'm, going to be in real estate and I'd love to have you refer your friends or any person to me because I know they weren't going to give me their business. I mean, they've had the people they've been working with for several decades. And it so turned out that the referrals they gave me were so happy with me, they went back and said, "Wow, where'd you get that guy from?" And they said, "Well, that's not my realtor." So, long story short, they became my clients because they felt that their friends got really great service. And that's how it all got started.
So when you do that, how many transactions did you sell last year and then compared to the year before?
So that's real easy because I never try to have more than 25 or 35 transactions a year. For me, it's all about lifestyle. And for people who know me, again, I like to travel, I like to enjoy the lifestyle. I never want to get overwhelmed. Early on, I had a team of 5 people, but again, the feedback I got was it wasn't the same as you. It wasn't the same quality, and you needed to be, have people who are more true to themselves like you are. So I went back solo, and in my goal setting, I try to set about 25 to 30 listings per year. And sometimes I end up having a little more than that. Sometimes I turn away listings and people say you're crazy, but I'd rather refer it out, have somebody do it. If I can't give you 200%, I'm not going to take it because I want to make sure I give you the best job I can do. So in 2020, I did about, I think, 30 transactions. In 2019, I did almost 28.
Oh, that's great. Now this is where you're gonna like stab all of us in Missouri in the heart. What's your average sales price?
My average sales price, believe it or not, is only like 1.5 million. So it sounds like it's a lot, but it's not really a lot. I mean, it's great. I had some 9 million listings in there, but on average, 1.5 million. It's part of my goal setting. I do take smaller listings, but in most cases, I will send those out. For example, I just got two listings in Miami, which I gave to another Remax realtor there. And I'll just give it to them. And if they want to share and give me a referral fee, it's fine. If they don't want to, it's okay. It's not about the money for me, really. It's about making sure that the clients get the best real estate experience. Because at the end of the day, if they get that, guess what? They'll send me 10 more referrals and no amount of money can buy that. So for me, it's really, just doing the right thing. The money comes back naturally if you just do the right thing. Just be professional.
Well, I love that, but we're sitting at an average sales price of about 240 in our market and about 190 in our other markets. So that's the average.
Right. So it
Yeah,
just means you'll do maybe 50 or 60 transactions versus 20 or
that
30.
is correct. That is correct.
It's all perspective.
That's right. It's all in perspective. I'll never forget. I was on a trade mission with a woman and she was saying how she does about 25 million a year. And I said, "Oh, do you have a team?" And she said no. And I said, "Well, how are you taking the time away to be gone for a month?" She's like, "Oh, it's fine." And she goes, "I do about 5 transactions a year." I was like, whatever. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
yeah, we're good because we don't see our swings in price. So with new business, how do you prospect for new business? Because obviously at that sales price, you might have some more people who are looking for forever homes or second homes, so they may not be turnover clients as much.
Right. This is really the one that I struggle to answer people because I'm not real helpful in this respect. I actually don't prospect for homes or for clients. All my business is really 100% referral. It didn't start out that way. When I first started out, like I said, I asked all my old clients to send me some referrals. So I never actually went out and paid for leads. Everybody said, get Zillow, get this.
Mhm.
But I wanted to grow an organic business. So it took me probably, I got my license and then I took a vacation, which was quite unconventional. But that vacation I took was really to kind of meet with people, talk with people that I knew internationally and says, hey, this is my next project. It's almost like investment banking. You meet people, you go out and you ask them to put assets into a project and to fund it. And for me, real estate was quite similar, except that I was the realtor. I was going to have a project and I wanted these people to kind of invest their time and referrals in me. So I kind of did it that way. And it took about 6 months, but once the referrals, came in, my first three listings were over $1 million, first three. So it paid off for me to kind of do the legwork in the background, get the referrals in, talk to people, let them know what I was doing. So I wish I had a better answer for you, but I don't prospect. So
No, I think you have a great answer because, of course, our next question is how do you keep in touch with past clients, which really is what you're doing to prospect.
right. Well, I used to keep in contact with them mostly physically because again, I love to travel. So when I go to different countries, we would have dinner, we would, do different things. But locally, stateside, mostly email. Now we have Zoom. There's still some face-to-face contact. I'm out on Sundays, on weekends. I love weekends. And you see that in my post all the time. So I do it in a safe way but mostly email contact. And then the old fashioned, well, not the old fashioned, but the old fashioned cell phone. I think speaking to people is an art that's kind of lost with a lot of people. And during the pandemic, it was so important to just pick up a phone, even call, my board members and say, how are you doing? And you just parlay that out to clients. Sometimes there's no transaction in between, but it's nice to call them and say, hey, how are you doing? How's your family doing? How's your business doing during, COVID? And just reaching out and talking to them, number one, it reminds them that you care about them. Number two, it reminds them they're not just one transaction because you build a relationship. And one of my early taglines was converting transactions into relationships.
Oh, I
So
love that.
yeah, and it brings it full circle because You don't have to remind them that you're a realtor. They know that. But now you're a realtor that cares about them, the family, and just be the source. Most of my clients don't originally call me for real estate. I've had 3 clients that won the lottery. They called me first. The reason they called me, they knew I was in banking, they needed an estate attorney. So, when you're the source, they call me for everything, and that's what you want.
So I'm realizing now that if a client of yours has a better chance of winning the lottery than anybody who just normally pays,
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't
So,
parlay to me. I would love that.
so buy a home from Carlos and you have a good chance of winning the lottery. That's how this is going to go.
I wish I could say that, but they're very lucky people, and I think I'm lucky to have them. I always put in my posts, if you see, I have really the best clients because
Yes.
they somehow have a connection with me that's not really real estate related, and it's more relationship related. And I love that because at the end of the day, real estate is not about houses and buildings. It's really about people.
So you just said something that I don't think I would have identified that I've noticed about you, but now that you've said it, I definitely have. And that is in your posts, you frequently are not talking about the property. I just sold them a great home. You're talking about how great the client is.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, the homes are always going to be great. Uh, the homes tend to carry their own aura about them. They're beautiful homes. They're lovely homes. But I want people to know that I'm not in this for just selling. Again, it's really relationship based. And it's a way for me to tell those clients, and I never post their names because a lot of times
Yeah.
they're well known. They don't want people to know who they are. But I want them to know that I appreciate them and that I'm so happy that we have the relationship. And sometimes I try to post examples of things they do without kind of giving it away. And I think they're happy because they see that here's a person who's interested in me and not just looking to make a commission
Mhm.
selling my home.
Which I would imagine in your price range, your market, your point that there's a lot of that going on.
There's quite a lot of that. And I try to stay positive, sort of like the unicorns, always looking at the bright side. And I think if you do that, things naturally tend to happen. If you're professional, if you're the source, if you do the right thing, and if you treat people with respect, everything comes, whether it's a compliment, pay, commissions, more referrals. It's just the natural progression if you do it that way. At least that's the way I was brought up anyway.
I love it. Adam Contos, our CEO of Remax, I heard him last week and he was coaching a top agent and she was really struggling with his business. And he said, I just have one question for you. He said, are you happy? And she paused and she said, no. And she had a lot going on with her life and personal. And he said, until you get that resolved, you're never going to get your team and your business straight. So, I mean, good reminder of where's your mind? How's your mind going? Knowing that. So, okay, let's switch for you personally, because you do have this amazing background in investments, financial. I don't know if you plan on doing this the rest of your life, but I know that you're probably being maybe a little more aware, cautious of how you're setting up yourself personally and financially and in investing. And so as an independent contractor, what's on your mind when you think about that?
Well, I think of it as if I had any other job. I don't think of it as an independent contractor point of view because no matter what you do in life, you have to have a business plan. So my business plan is not just, okay, how many houses I'll sell this year, how much I'm going to make this year. The business plan really should be a life business plan. Where do I want to be in my 30s? Where do I want to be in my 40s? What kind of career do I have? Where do I want to be in my 50s? What type of money or investments do I have to help me get from this stage all the way to retirement? And without getting too personal, you have to make investments, whether it's in yourself, whether it's in, financial products, or whether it's in real estate. So, I'm very fortunate that, I have, like I said, a good support structure around me. My wife is pretty awesome. So we make investments inside and outside of the country that we think will benefit us down the road. Most people are not comfortable making investments outside the US, but as you know, global realtors, the world does not function just here. International people in other countries have great investments. And as long as you have the right team in place to protect you, international attorneys, accountants, if you know the areas and you're willing to take the risk, you can really make things work for you. And as we say in finance, don't put all your eggs in one basket. So the same way you buy international mutual funds, you can invest in other countries. And I think realtors have the advantage. And the reason I say that is if you think of all the realtors around, most of us are from other countries or have backgrounds from other countries or have family in other countries, speak multiple languages. So you also have to use that as an opportunity to say, hey, is this something that's worthwhile? In every country, there are hotels, there are bed and breakfasts, there are, communities that are thriving. So you say to yourself, is this worthwhile for me to put my money here, or is it worthwhile to put my money there? So there's lots of different ways in which you can plan and which you can, make sure that you have some type of nest egg for retirement. Most realtors get busy selling and forget to make that part of the business plan too.
So if you were advising someone right now, what countries would you tell them to invest in?
I would tell them don't look at a specific country. Look at a country where you have a support system or structure or reliable people. Because at the end of the day, even with my clients that have international properties, they need to have someone there who can look after the property or attorneys that can help them because economies change and you need to have supporting infrastructure in those places. So it's not that they should look in a specific place, but they should look in a place that they have a connection to or a relative to. They don't have to hire their relatives to do it. I actually would prefer them to stay away from having the relative take care of it, but have it in a place that the attorneys and the support structure can, you know, deal directly with the family if they need a representative on their behalf in those places. So it's not a place, but it's where you have connections and ties to. Or if I have some people say to me, I want to retire in Costa Rica. So if that's the case where you have no family, no relatives, you need to go there on vacation and figure out the place and figure out where you'd like to live because, dreams only become reality if you have a plan. Most people dream of doing things, but you have to actually go there and see, is this really a place I would like to retire? You need to take a vacation and take time. And we've certainly done that in many different aspects. So we're pretty comfortable, when we make our decisions.
I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So as I mentioned, our average sales price much lower. Luxury homes in our market are the unicorns. They're not the norm. However, in the HGTV world, everyone wants to see their home showcased as Chip and Joanna would kind of make it go. But we want to learn from you a little bit. So again, let's say you're coming into our market, you're going to really market the heck out of a luxury property and talk to that owner. What are you telling them that you're going to do that's going to get them to work with you because they think their home's really special?
Yeah, we see it here all the time. I'm dealing with a situation right now where the seller thinks their home is really special, and they are special in their mind. And I tell people, I get it, as a homeowner ourselves, everybody thinks their home is the best. But one of the first things I do with people when I meet them, if they're going to be listening, is I actually try to have a decent conversation. And I try to have that conversation over a lunch or over dinner. And people say, well, that's kind of crazy. But, food is the universal language, and people are more relaxed when they're eating. They tell you really the things that are on their mind. So you can have a much better conversation about the house, what brought them to the house, why they buy the house in the first place. So I try to find out the things that drew them to that property first, because 9 times out of 10, that next buyer is probably going to be pretty close in the same reasons why they're buying the home. In terms of what's in the home, we do a total survey of the home because everybody here has luxury homes and everybody wants to make sure that their home sells better than others. So we do a full scan of the home from top to bottom and we look for things that we know is trendy in the market. So right now, white kitchens and white marble tops and, gold is back, gold faucets, lots of, flashy stuff. It's back. So we try to tell the homeowners, hey, these are the things that we see. These are the things we need to change. And if you really want to get top dollar, I suggest doing this before we list or even take photos. Some people agree, some people are happy to do it. And then others, you have to kind of coax them. And we show them just like on HGTV. This is your neighbor's house. This is the house that sold at 2 million down the street. And sometimes I even take them to see other homes and say, well, as a buyer, would you prefer this home or your home? And it gets them in the mindset of the buyer, because as the seller, they take everything personally. So when I give feedback on what buyers think, then they're much happier, because they're not so caught up in this is what I like. Well, you're not selling the home to yourself, you're selling it to somebody else. So we do a real complete dig into the home and what we need to do to that home before we put it on the market.
Do you actually take them to other properties and walk them
Yes.
through it, or do you do, okay.
The good part is we have options for that. So we have a lot of new construction. So we can take them to other properties, and we take them also to model homes that are selling literally at the next subdivision next door.
Yeah.
And we said, look, this is really your direct competition. It's this model home, which in reality the buyer doesn't get, because it doesn't look like that when they buy it. But it gives the seller some frame of mind that, hey, if I want to be close in competition to that house, maybe I should listen to my realtor's suggestion.
And are you and when you're saying you take them for food, that food is happening before the listing presentation?
Correct, yes, because it's kind of, I'm very unorthodox in the way I do things. And because most of my clients come in as referrals, not most, 99.9% come in as referrals, I think it's important to really know that person before I start telling them about listing and what they should do. Because if you don't understand the person, how are you going to be able to get across your message to them? And maybe, if I went directly to the listing, maybe I don't understand the way they want to communicate to me, or how they like to be communicated, or what's the real reason behind selling the home, because that's going to really drive how they see and accept offers. If the reason they're selling the home is because they just want to test the market and see how much money they can get in this market, it's not the same as if they're really selling the home because they need to move to another location, they have a job relocation, their kids got into a private school somewhere else and they need to be closer to the school. So it really is important to find out the real reason why people are selling. And people are much more likely to share things with you when they're not in a Q&A kind of presentation mode, when things are more relaxed, and they feel like they're not under the gun to
I love it. I mean, it's what a lot of times people are doing with buyers who are relocating, because you're taking them in your car, you're taking them, you're showing around, you're building that relationship. And I don't know, I mean, you saying that is not something we've heard from anyone else who kind of interviewed here, but it's so logical that you would kind of try to set that stage ahead of time. So,
yeah, I
there's some
believe in.
great restaurants, right?
Yeah, and what it does, it's twofold. So most of the people that move here, we just had a closing with a couple from San Francisco. It was sight unseen, so they'd never been to the area. They bought it by a video, and when they got here, they were so surprised that there's so much ecosystem around. But for the average person that comes and looks at a home, or the seller that wants to sell, it's important to take them around, and it kind of lets them know there are all these nice little nooks and crannies that they've been here forever and they never knew. And it changes the whole perspective and how they think of the neighborhood. And that also helps sell, the list price. And you say, well, what else do I get in addition for this expensive home? I want a great community with great schools. So they get to kind of see a little bit of the community before they actually move into it.
No, I love it. So what is something that you would always do with a buyer? Like has to happen with the buyer?
Uh, I don't know. I'm kind of robotic in that sense that I always meet with the buyers. I always talk with the buyers, find out their goals. Again, it's very organic. I don't have a set thing, but whatever I do with the buyers, I do the same thing with the sellers. So if I get a call for a buyer, you know, I'll find out when's best for them to meet, if they'd like to meet, you know, and we'll do either coffee, lunch, dinner, whatever it is, because it's just the right environment to do it. When you go directly to people's house and you try to do the listing appointment, they already have their like fences up, and they're expecting you to do this and do that. They're not relaxed. So I do the same things with the buyers as I do the sellers. I'm pretty simple. I'm not so complicated or sophisticated, I should say, like maybe some of the other realtors. Mine is really more personal and more strategic in the way, I plan my whole listing and selling.
I love it. So do you use a CRM?
So I used to use CRMs, and some people probably think I'm crazy. Lion Desk was one that I used.
Wow.
But right now, I don't use a CRM anymore because, again, I'm very old fashioned in that way. So I don't set something up to remind me to send this out on the person's birthday. I either try to remember that birthday, like the old days, because when you work, with stocks, you have to remember 3,000 stock symbols.
Oh my
There's
gosh.
no dictionary that says, okay, let me just look it up. You can look it up, but when you're talking to a client and they tell you, give you a symbol, you don't have time to look it up. You either know it or you don't know it.
Wow.
So if you want your brain to, kind of stay functional, you kind of have to memorize things. So I used to remember everybody's telephone number. Now I've gotten lazy because we have cell phones, it's all programmed there. So because my business is quite referral based, I put all the birthdays and everything in my phone. And that's kind of like the closest it gets to the CRM because I'll make sure you call them personally. I don't need the computer to remind me of that. And because I pick and choose and select who I work with, it's not like I have 500 people that I have to keep track of. And in terms of, sending people drip campaigns, when I first started with Remax, I did that, but I didn't find it very effective. I find sending them more personal email or personal phone call was much more effective. And it's just a matter of consistency. And because we have so many different opportunities to really interact with people, whether it's Fourth of July, whether it's the Jewish holidays, people really appreciate that because not many people do that anymore. Most people send out generic emails that are created by somebody else, somewhere else, and it goes to an inbox. All my emails are generic. So when I send an email for the holidays or, for Rosh Hashanah, any of those things, it's always very generic. So they know it's from me. They know I took time to create it. So from that
You
perspective,
mean specific, not generic.
well, yeah,
Yeah.
specific, not generic.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I love that. What does your average day look like?
Crazy, but it's good. So my average day, it's mostly starts very early in the morning. So I'm up really early in the morning. For international people, it never really stops because I could get a text or a call at 2 or 3 in the morning, and out of the country, they're in a different time zone. But the average day would be a combination of showings, listings, Zoom calls, you know, uh, committee meetings, and really lunch, dinner. My philosophy is a little bit different. I tend to keep a very family oriented lifestyle, even with my work. So my goal is to have lunch, dinner, or breakfast with my wife every day. And somehow I find a way to incorporate that into my work. So, I look at all the realtors I know who've been around forever, and the family is usually last. And I think if you want to be successful in anything, you have to incorporate the family into that. So my typical day may start off with showings, interrupted by calls for new clients or referrals. And nowadays it's consistently new people calling to buy stuff. Then it would be lunchtime. I probably had breakfast with my wife early, lunchtime. And then from lunchtime, it could be Zoom calls like this one. After this, I have to jump into another international global call, which I'm going to be, meeting and greeting others from around the world as it relates to Florida realtors. And then it goes right through until the evening. Sometimes I have showings of 6 and 7 o'clock. Sometimes I may have a listing appointment that may be 8 or 9 o'clock because that's what the client can do. And then it's dinner. So it varies from day to day, but it's very crazy days. Just 2 weekends ago, I had 15 showings in one day, which was crazy. But of course, you find help. I have people that help me, and I have a great support staff. So that makes it easy.
I love it. So my last question for you, I know you like, I have a huge day of international, is what is the secret sauce of Carlos?
I don't know if I have a secret sauce. It's funny because I said to myself, I was jotting down notes of things that I think could help people. And I said, why am I jotting this down? I don't have that. My secret sauce is simply be true to yourself. Be professional. treat people with kindness, and whatever you do, make sure that you have a very supportive family behind you. You know, my wife is pretty awesome. She's very supportive. And like I said before, that's important because if you don't have a supportive household, you're not going to be able to satisfy or be able to, satisfy customers or meet your end goal, because then you're torn between meeting this goal over here and meeting this goal over here. If they're not in sync with each other, then you're going to have an issue. So I think the secret sauce for most people should be true to yourself, be kind to others, work your business plan. And if you have something that pops up in your daily routine that is unexpected, be honest with the customer. You know, you may have a showing and they're really looking forward to seeing it and something happens. Be honest, call them and says, I'm sorry. You know, maybe you have a kid at school that needs the attention, says, I'm sorry, I have to go get my kid. I can't do this, but I promise you, we'll do it in such and such.
Mhm.
I think what is lost for most people today is being accountable, being honest, and being professional. Most people seem to think that, oh, they'll understand or they'll get it. No explanation needed. So my secret sauce is just be dedicated to anything that you put yourself into.
I love it. And you certainly are so dedicated to this, and it just comes through. And I know we've had a chance to talk, but it's been so nice getting a chance to just hear a little bit more about you. And if there's anything you ever need from us, you please let me know.
And thank you so much. And if I could just give one advice to all the realtors out there, whether they're new or existing. When I started, people said to me, why are you so involved or want to get involved in your association? And, even in all the other jobs I've worked, they've had advocates for them behind the scenes. There's no National Homeowners Association. We are pretty much it. So I implore all the realtors, if you're in a business, you want to make sure you know what's going on in that business. And the only way to do that is be involved in your local association, your state association, and your national association. And if you do that, you will find that number one, you're a better professional,
Mhm.
and you can probably answer more questions that you will get from your clients than the average realtor will be able to, because you would be really have your finger on the pulse of what's going on locally and nationally as well. So I implore people to get involved, because I think people say, why are you so successful? I think it's part that I was involved literally from the day I started. And I think I have 12 committees this year. It's a little bit much, but I think when you do that, clients also see that you're not just dedicated to selling homes, but you're really seriously interested in the industry. And they see you as a viable person who not only understands the industry, but is there to support the industry. And I think that's important for clients to see as well.
Well, you've hit a place in my heart. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. All right. Well, stay warm. We hope, for anybody who's headed down to Boca or Delray or in that area, think about referring to Carlos, or even if it's just going down there for a vacation, say hi. He'll have some good restaurant recommendations, I think.
Absolutely. And I do pay really good referrals, sometimes almost up to 50%. So
Oh, well, oh, there you
yeah,
go, everyone.
exactly. So, but I thank you so much. It's been
Thank
so
you.
great, to have to spend the time with you. And I hope that we get to spend some more time. We had a really good
I
time
do
at dinner,
too.
like you said. And thank you for always being positive. I follow you.
You
I
too.
watch everything you do. So you're a great inspiration to a lot of
You
people.
too. Thank you so much. And thank you for being part of Remax.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye-bye. Have a great rest of the day.
You too.